And from that interview, let's move on now to the views of lawyers on what the president-elect, President Muhammadu Buhari, should focus on for the next 4 years. We have some very interesting responses.
Power and more power and more power. As it is, we don't even have or generate enough power to sustain this country comfortably. So if focus were to be entirely on power, it would not be misplaced. Even God, when he created the world, said, "Let there be light," and everything else took off from that. We need power to be able to function effectively as a country, as individuals and as a nation. We need to start with manufacture. The traffic gridlock you find from the nation's ports, especially Apapa and Tinkan, is as a result of a huge amount of imports. We're importing nearly everything. This complaint has constantly been made. We need to start to produce. But our goods are not competitive when we manufacture because the cost of manufacturing is so high, driven mainly by the high cost of producing power, alternative sources of power. So if the president were to focus on power, you'd be amazed at the multiplier effects that that alone would have.
The issue of corruption has been overflowed. It's not that it's not important, but that is not all. It doesn't solve all our problems. It doesn't bring food on the table for people. It doesn't solve all the problems that we face. Momentous problems, heavy problems that are facing the generality of Nigeria. So I rather want a situation where he has an economic team that would focus on how to revitalize the economy of this country, because the downtrodden people are suffering and there is no middle class again because they have been eliminated. So it's either you are down there or you are up there, and there should be a focus on how to revitalize the economy. That is that. Then the issue of security gives everybody concern, a lot of concern. In a situation where even the generals cannot travel from Kaduna to Abuja, it gives much concern to everybody, every right-thinking person. And now, for people like me, there are times I want to go to my hometown. I'm afraid of what am I going to meet on the road. That is not good enough for the economy. And then you want to invite foreigners to come and invest so that they can boost our economy. In a situation where there's a security lapse, then they cannot come. So this time around, they should focus on economy. Issue of corruption has been overflowed. I'm not saying it is not important. It's even very, very important. And it should be after them. It should not relent. But focus should be on economy and security this time around.
Well, infrastructure and security. Those are very essential. Without security, there is no development, undoubtedly. So I believe that we must give more input into security issues so that we can have a peaceful atmosphere to operate generally, and certainly that will enable us to grow the economy itself. Beyond that, of course, is the issue of infrastructure, particularly power. Without power, you can move. Even power equally endangers security equally. So I believe we must fight it by all means to us, ensuring that even if we can put the issue of power behind other security, all others will follow. We can't do everything at the no government can do everything at the same time. We just have to start prioritizing now. Take infrastructure and security, leave the rest for now.
The president needs to drive innovation across this. He has to be the change agent. He has to lead innovation, because all of the other countries, all of our counterparts across the world, they sit and thrive on innovation. So basically, the president, innovation is a concept that is more common with the younger generation and all of that. But he has to begin to think like an innovator and more or less surround himself with innovators, because that's another thing you can leverage on. Irrespective of the sector you want to reform, irrespective of the corruption and the economic reforms that he has to, the number one word on the mind of the president right now should be innovation.
The first thing I want the president to focus on is to entrench the rule of law. In the first term, Maybe he didn't pay much attention to the issue of rule of law. Rule of law simply means let the law guide the way things are done. Let the law guide the relationship between the citizens and citizens, between citizens and government, and between government and government. It's as simple as ABC. Secondly, I also want to urge Mr. President to take a very strong look at the issue of security. No part of Nigeria is safe today. No part. And then thirdly, I will want Mr. President to also pay attention to the issue of the economy. A lot of people are hungry, a lot of people are starving. It doesn't matter what Mr. President is told, but down on one-on-one, on individual to individual, people are hungry. Things are very tough for Nigerians. So those are the three areas.